What we're seeing at the moment is a globalist counterattack against the nationalist movements. We've seen it in America most vividly with this attempt to impeach Trump over these trumped-up charges on the Ukraine. We've seen it in Italy, where Salvini is being pushed out of the government through a palace coup, which was engineered between Merkel in Berlin, Macron in Paris, Brussels, and their sort of the people who work for them in Italy. They all operated together to push Salvini out of the government successfully. And of course, in Britain, we've seen the Tory party fracture in the House of Commons. 20 plus MPs have jumped ship or been kicked out effectively because they betrayed the leader, Boris Johnson. And we've seen this unfolding coup in Parliament by the MPs to try and prevent the government carrying out Brexit. That's essentially what it is. Again, it's been engineered in Brussels. Again, they've used Brussels lawyers and Brussels diplomats and Brussels strategists to advise them and guide them on how to scupper Brexit. And this is going on right across the West now. The globalists are fighting back. They've seen the populists rise. They've seen the populists gain in popularity, win elections, get a foothold in the state, take control of governments, and they've panicked. And they're using the deep state wherever they can, which they created during the Blair Clinton era especially. They created, and also the Bush Blair era, they created deep operatives within the state to control the future. I mean, we're seeing this in Britain with the use of the courts, with the Supreme Court against Boris Johnson. The Supreme Court was created in Blair's constitutional changes. I mean, this was Blair's strategy to make globalism effective in Britain, to make sure that Britain was run in the interest of the globalist institutions, and this could not be scuppered by the popular will. Now, they're still in a state of shock about the Brexit vote in 2016, June 2016. They cannot accept that result. Firstly, because it was such a huge blow to their self-confidence. They thought they could manipulate the British public to vote Remain. But no, we voted Leave. Because the patriotism, especially amongst the older generations in Britain, is very deep, and we value our independence, and we know how important it is to shape the future. So we defeated them, but they cannot accept that defeat, and they cannot accept what happened later on that year in November 2016 in the United States when Donald Trump stunned them by beating Hillary Clinton. They'd engineered everything to get Hillary Clinton elected. They demonised Trump to the umpteenth degree, but they failed. The American people recognised a people's champion when they saw one, and Donald Trump has lived that out, and he's never surrendered to them. Donald Trump has a very deep ideology. He has a very long-term perspective on how he wants America to be great again, and how he wants America to break free of the shackles of globalism. Globalism was created to generate this one-world order, to undermine the nation state and tie us into these globalist institutions like the EU, like the United Nations, and the multinational corporations, the globalist corporatists. They're the people who run this whole sort of strategy. And their goal is to have the world as one nation, one marketplace, and of course their workforce is the slave labour in China. But this was all about the dispossession of Western man. This was all about the undermining of the nation state in the West and the democracy and the liberty that flows from that nation state. We as citizens of our nations have numerous rights and powers. They're trying to take these away from us, and now they're using the courts, and they're using underhand strategies, they're using the deep state, they're using the globalist institutions to try and undermine the national populist uprising at every turn. But it's failing. It's failing because democracy still survives. We're so embedded in this democratic culture that we will not let it go. And the globalists are losing election after election. The two parties that they moulded to fit their agenda, the Social Democrats and the Christian Democrats, or the Conservatives, in the centre ground of politics, have just been leaking support like there's no tomorrow. There's what they call de-alignment. The popular masses have lost their faith in the mainstream parties in the Western democracies. And it's the obvious reason for this is because they don't trust them anymore. They don't trust these mainstream parties to work in the interest of the people. They know, the people know intuitively, that the mainstream parties serve the globalists. They don't serve the people of their countries. They're not interested in our interest. They're working on behalf of somebody else's interest. And we see this in mass immigration. Every poll shows that the peoples of each nation want their borders to be secure, and yet the globalists, led by Merkel, just keep bringing the immigrants in. And we see especially Islamic immigration, which is a threat, which is a political movement, political Islam. It's a threat to our nation state, it's a threat to our culture, it's a threat to our inheritance. We value what we've inherited from the past. It's served us incredibly well. Western civilization is the greatest, probably the only civilization that has prospered in the history of the world. And we don't want it to be thrown away, cast into the gutter, and allow endless immigration from Africa, where there's a demographic explosion. The population of Africa is exploding. They all want to come to Europe and live on our welfare state. We've got Islam, which is driven by its own ideology to invade us. And of course we've got China. China is about the deindustrialization and the weakening of our economies. It's about the loss of our prosperity, because what the globalists are doing, they're shifting manufacturing into China, where they don't have to pay any of the social cost, and the wages are lower, and they don't have to pay taxes. It's these strategies scare the people. They scared the people of Italy, they scared the people of France, they scared the people of Britain, they scared the people of America, and we've reacted to that, and champions have arisen in every country. I mean, we see, and what's happening now is that in the next week, on Sunday, there's an election in Austria, and the Austrian People's Party and the Austrian Freedom Party are going to win that election, and the Social Democrats, who are the natural government of Austria, who ruled Austria in the post-war years, they're going to get their lowest vote ever, around 20% or under. And we're going to see this in Thuringia in Germany in the Landers election at the end of October. The Social Democrats might not even get through the 5% threshold. Once the powerhouse of European politics, the German Social Democrats, have just collapsed. The de-alignment, people are leaving them. They don't trust them anymore. They don't trust these left-wing parties or the centre-right parties, Merkel. And there's going to be elections in October in Spain, in Poland, in Switzerland, maybe even in Britain. But we're going to see more and more elections where the national populists are going to win. And they're going to win, and they're going to be seen to be growing and developing in strength. And we're overthrowing the globalist order. Because it doesn't matter how ferociously they fight back against the national populists, they can't beat the people. The people always triumph. The palace through history has dominated the people for a time, but eventually the people have rose up and they've overthrown the palace. I mean, look at Salvini in Italy. He's ready now to win elections in October in various Italian regions, first of all in Umbria and then in Emilia-Romagna, which was a left-wing stronghold. He's threatening to win there, and also in Calabria in the south. Salvini has got the street in Italy. He's got the people behind him, and it doesn't matter what coup they planned at the palace level, it's going to fail. Temporarily, he's been shut out of government. He's going to come back like a tidal wave. Trump is going to win in America. He's looking forward to a landslide now. The Democrats are in free fall in the States, and they're using any strategy they can to damage Trump. It's not going to work. And Trudeau, to his north, Justin Trudeau, the campaigner for racial equality, the campaigner for the racial minorities, has been exposed as a closet racist. I mean, a guy who blacks up his face and mimics black people and you know, belittles them. He's a fraud. This is the problem with the left. They're being exposed as frauds. Everything they claim to represent is false. They do not represent the people. They do not represent the working class. They do not represent their nations. The Labour Party has just said they're going to have open door immigration. Immigrants will be able to plug into our welfare state. They're effectively going to destroy this country. As Diane Abbott said, the problem in Britain is the white people. They want us out the way. This is about our dispossession and replacement. And we're not going along with it anymore. It doesn't matter, even if they think they've got control of the media, they've got control of academia, they've got control of the political structures. They haven't got the people, and the people are rising up in rebellion. You see, what the left do, and the globalists, is they try and manipulate people. They create these phantom issues like climate change. It's a hoax. Man can no more affect the climate than it can affect the direction of the wind. It's all utter and total nonsense. But they think if they drive that into our children's heads, they drive it into the media persistently, we'll actually start to believe this hoax. But we won't, because Donald Trump doesn't believe it, and he's the head honcho. So all around, I see that the globalists are weakening. They're desperate. They're desperate to cling on to their power and their institutions. Brexit's going to happen. Trump's going to get re-elected. The EU is on its way out. The United Nations, which is controlled by the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Conference, the United Nations is going to become toothless. The nation state is going to be reborn. And we're going to reverse this mass immigration. We're going to reverse this destruction of our culture. And we're going to reverse this deindustrialization of our economies. We're winning this battle because we've got right on our side, we've got truth on our side. We will overcome, and we're going to see this in the weeks ahead. Thank you.